Hello, and welcome to section 6.3. Today we're going to be looking at what we call the percent equation. And as I mentioned to you in 6.2, this is another method that we're going to learn how to use to solve percent problems. And I would like you to try to use the percent equation today on your homework. But going forward, I don't care if you use the 6.2, which is the proportion method, or if you use the 6.3, the percent equation. I just ask that you show me all your work. So when we look at the percent equation, what we're going to do is we're still looking at similar types of problems where we're looking at A is P% of some number W. Okay, but instead of setting it up as a proportion, what we're going to do is we're going to write it as an equation. Okay, and it's going to be in the format of A equals your percent times the whole number. Okay, so you can see down here we have a few examples. We have 15 equals 50% of 30. So when we go to set this up, we're going to either have to change that 50% over into a decimal, or you can convert it over into a fraction. Either way, it doesn't matter. I just ask that you show your work, please. Now, usually some clues that I kind of look for when I'm doing these types of problems is when I see that I have the word is, that usually means equals. And of usually means to multiply. So those are kind of keywords that I look for to help me when I'm trying to set something up. So let's take a look at a couple examples and see how this works. So first we have example 1. Example 1 states, what number is 24% of 50? So because we're going to try using the percent equation in this example or this section, we need to write out what the percent equation is. So A equals P% of W. Now remember, I told you earlier that is typically means equal and of means to multiply. And because I don't know what number, I'm having to solve for what number is, I'm going to just plug in an X. So what number is means equal. P% would be 24%, but I have to write that as a decimal. And then of means to multiply, and then I'm multiplying that by 50. So what number is X? Is equal. 24% has to be written as a decimal. Of means multiply, and 50 is going to follow the multiplication. So now if I go ahead and multiply this out, I get X is equal to 12. So 12 is 24% of 50. Now for the you try it's, I would like you to pause the video, try to solve these on your own, and then come back to the video and see how you did. So for number 1, it says, what number is 10% of 20? So again, I have what number is 10% as a decimal. Of means to multiply 20. And when I go to solve, I will find out that 2 is 10% of 20 by multiplying that 0.10 times 20. Likewise, for number 2, it says, what number is 150% as a decimal would be 1.5. Of means to multiply. And then I have 40. So if I have X equals 1.5 times 40, that's going to give me 60. So 60 is 150% of 40. Next, we have example 2. Example 2 says 9.5 is what percent of 25? So again, I'm going to start out with my A equals P% times W equation, or the percent equation, and I'm going to plug in what I know. So for this one, I have 9.5 is what percent, which I don't know, of means multiply, and 25. So if I simplify this, I have 9.5 equals 25x, and I want to get x by itself. So I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by 25, and I'm left with x equals 0.38. Now it does say what percent, so I have to convert that decimal from 0.38 over to 38%. So 9.5 is 38% of 25. Again, please pause the video and then come back and check your solutions. For number 3, it says 3 is what percent of means multiply 600. So again, I want to get x by itself. So I'm going to divide both sides by 600. And I see that x is equal to 0.005. Now my question said write that as a percent. So this is really, if I move my decimal place, I get 0.5%. So 3 is 0.5% of 600. Now if I look at number 4, it says 18 is what percent of 20? So I'm going to divide both sides by 20. And I end up with x equals 0.9. And because I need a percent, that means I get 90%. So 18 is 90% of 20. Now let's take a look at example 3. Example 3 says 39 is 52% of what number? So again, I'm looking at writing that percent equation, and I'm given that 39 means equal 52%, so I have to write that as a decimal of what number? I'm just going to plug in an x. So now I have to solve for x again, and to do that, I'm going to divide both sides by that 0.52. And I'm left with x equals 75. So 39 is 52% of 75. Please pause your video and try numbers 5 and 6. Number 5 says 8 is 80% of what number? And I'm going to plug in an x. So I'm going to go and I'm going to solve for x by dividing by 0.80. And I see that x is equal to 10. So 8 is 80% of 10. For number 6, we're told that 90 is 180% is really 1.8 of x. So I divide both sides by 1.8. And I'm left with x is equal to 50. So 90 is 180% of 50. And for our final example, we'll take a quick look at example 4. So example 4 says, you are paying for lunch and receive the bill that is shown. Okay, you can see over here we have our bill. Find the percent of sales tax on the food total. So really what we're doing here is we're trying to answer the question, because notice we have our tax is $1.65 and our food total is $27.50. So we're trying to answer the question, $1.65 is what percent of $27.50? So I'm just going to go in order. $1.65 is what percent of $27.50? So now that I've got my equation, I can go ahead and divide everything out. So I'm going to divide both sides by $27.50. and I can see that X equals 0.06. Now the question says what percent, so that means I have to convert that 0.06 over into a percentage, which tells me then that the sales tax is 6%. So at a restaurant, this is very typical. You usually get your food bill, they apply their tax, and you get your subtotal. Then before you leave or your parents leave, they usually leave some type of a tip for your waitress. So for part B, it says you leave a 16% tip on the food total. So the food total is $27.50. So you want to find out the amount you pay for lunch. So to find out how much I'm going to pay for my tip, I'm going to say what number, So I'm really answering the question, what number is 16% of my total food bill was $27.50. So when I put that in an equation format, I have X equals 0.16 times 27.50. When I multiply that out, I see that X is equal to $4.40. So sometimes you'll see that your parents will write that $4.40 on the line. And then to find the total then, because this is what we want, is the total, we're going to have to add that 440 to that 29.50. So I can see that my total bill is going to be $33.55. Please let me know if you guys have any questions. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a great day, and I will talk to you in class.